Hello and welcome back to the Dog Classroom podcast. I'm Amelia.
And I'm Anne-Marie.
And we are going to go over some basic training exercises today since we have our demo dogs with us. So here we have Nugget, she's my little Chihuahua mix. We have Maui, he's the larger poodle mix. And back here we have Mr. B, who is a mini poodle. And we're gonna do some training demonstrations with them just to sort of show how to train different exercises and how to work through that process. So. I'm going to talk a little bit, and Anne-Marie is going to be my client.
I'm gonna follow the explanation with my dogs. Actually, I think I might just sit down here.
You could sit on the floor.
Yeah, I think I might go down here.
Okay. So, first one that I think we should start off with is a sit, because everybody says my dog knows sit. Even if they're like an 8-week-old puppy, they think their dog knows sit in every situation. And I think it's valuable to learn how the actual process works when dogs are learning. So we know that the way that dogs learn is more visual than auditory or verbal cues.
Right.
So people want to say sit, but what the dog is actually paying attention to is our body language. And most of the time people are doing something else while they're saying sit. And that's what the dog is picking up on. Yeah. Usually I would say it's grabbing a cookie.
Yeah, true.
Most dogs, you grab a cookie, they're gonna sit down.
Yeah.
So when we're starting to teach dogs a new behavior, sometimes we'll start with a lure, because a lure is just basically a little treat between your fingers, and you're showing the dog where to move. Right. So if you have a little piece of cookie, you can get the dog to follow that, right? And then use that to your advantage. So if we're working with Mr. Maui here and we want to lure him into a sit, how might that look?
So I'm just gonna, you're gonna
So we're gonna take our hand, we're gonna bring it a little bit above his nose, because that's gonna get him to look up, and then his little bum to go down. Same with B here, treat above the nose, bringing it up above the head a little bit, and then the bum goes down. Okay, and you notice at this point, you're not saying anything. You're not saying sit, 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 sit. You're just showing them what you want them to do. So I find this part a lot of people get, and then they think we're done, but we're not done.
Right, we're not done.
Because this is my big thing right now, is fading the lure. So if you're using a treat, or a lure as I'm calling it, you need to be able to fade that out so that your dog doesn't need to see the treat in order to listen to the hand signal, right? So the hand signal is basically what you're doing there when you're bringing your hand above his head. We're gonna now turn that into a hand signal without a treat. Okay, so same idea, you're gonna bring the hand above the head, and then you're gonna transfer the treat into that hand and deliver it. And the reason why we're doing that is because I want the dog to pay attention to the signal hand, not the hand that's digging for the treats, right? So empty hand, you can show them it's empty first if you need to. Bring the hand up above their head. There you go, mark it, reward it, beautiful. Okay, same thing with the down, right? So if they already have the sit, you can usually lure the front end into a down with a treat. Bigger dogs, it's a little bit easier, I find, than smaller dogs, but when you're bringing the treat down towards the floor.
So we're going back to a lure.
We're going back to a lure.
Okay, because we're doing the down, got it.
Yes,
okay.
We're teaching a different behavior.
So I'm just gonna give him more room here.
Okay.
Back up.
And then we bring the treat to his nose, bring it all the way down toward the floor. And then we can mark and reward once he actually does the behavior. For the little dogs, it's a bit more challenging. So you can see he's not dropping straight down. If this was a baby puppy, I would mark and reward that because he is following the lure. Does B know down on
Verbal,
cue?
yeah.
Verbal, okay. So B doesn't have the hand signal just perfect yet. He's also on a different floor texture.
I was gonna say he's slipping a bit,
yeah. And it's a little bit harder for them when they go somewhere else with a different texture, whether it's grass or snow or whatever. Yeah, he's on some tile floor. So it's a little bit harder for him. Why don't we talk about then how we're gonna add the verbal cue?
Okay, we're gonna fade the lure. Let's do that for a real.
Okay. So we're gonna fade the lure for down as well. So same thing, no treat in that hand, transferring the treat into the signal hand.
So sometimes I find with littles or some dogs are like, no, I don't want to do the down without the lure.
Yes.
So we at least get them halfway
And we can mark the effort. The other thing with little dogs is if you are beside them, so if I was doing this would be great setup for teaching Nuggie to lay down. She's unfortunately already laying down. But if you're on the couch with your dog or you're on the bed with your dog and they're at your level, the littles are more likely to go into the down. Pro tip.
Right, instead of
hovering over top of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the verbal, if we have done the lure, we've faded the lure, we're ready to add our verbal cue. The important things to note are to be consistent, number one.
Right.
So for down, for example, some people will say down as in get down off the couch, get down when you're jumping on somebody. And then they want to say down for lay down as well. So pick a cue, be consistent with it, and don't repeat it. So I try to get my dogs to respond the first time that I say the cue, so I don't have to chant it at them. If they learn that they can just kind of ignore you, then you're not really using your verbal cue that efficiently.
Right.
So for sit, I would find most dogs sit is the cue. Some people like to use a different language, but if he's standing and Marie says sit, and you notice there she was whispering. So doesn't matter the tone of voice. Some people think you have to be firm or yell at the dog, but if you can whisper, then you know the dog truly knows that cue. The other thing is if there's kids in the house, kids have, the higher pitched voice, or they're a little bit quieter sometimes, and they need to learn to respond to all of those different types of verbal cues. So if we were sitting down and whispering, that looks way different for dogs than when you're standing up, you're leaning over them, you've got a treat in your hand, and you're going sit, right, really loudly, firmly. So this is just showing that basically you say the cue once, the dog responds, and they get their reward. So we're not saying don't reward ever again.
Right.
We're just saying reward
sit
after they've done the cue. Okay, so if you cue it and they don't respond, then what do we do?
So I'm saying the word sit. I think B's focused on the treat. So then I'm going to follow it with the hand signal, which I know he knows, and I'm going to treat it.
Beautiful. And why?
Just so he's going to learn this means the word that's said first. So again, sit, hand signal, reward.
Beautiful. And when we do it that way, and we're not doing the hand signal and the verbal cue at the same time, we're not running into, nerdy word here, overshadowing. So if there's a list of the way that dogs learn things, it's going to be like scents are up here, visuals are next, and then the auditory cues are somewhere down here. So if your dog learns that, oh, I really like the body language signal for that, that's going to overshadow the verbal if you do both.
So everybody, basically what we say is, you have it on verbal if you can put your hands on in your pockets and cue it standing up.
Yeah, cue it standing up. Lay in your bed and say sit. Can they do it while you're wrapped in all your blankets? Can you go to, I don't know, a recording studio and ask your dog to sit? There's lots of different environmental things that come into play too. So making sure that you practice your lure, fading the lure, and your verbal cue in all of these different scenarios.
Right, and I just want to show you real quick with Maui is he has a verbal sit from a stand.
Yes.
But when he's in a down and I say sit, he's not sure, so then I follow it with my hand signal.
Right.
So to him, sit means from a stand, not from a down.
Yeah.
So just throwing it out there because we've seen a lot of people do it. Remember, we're creating a pattern, and if we change the pattern and don't change it, then don't assume the dog knows it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing with down a lot of the time too, is down is usually from a sit for a lot of dogs. They don't know down from a stand.
Down.
Or when it comes to the pattern, like you're saying, is they learn, well, when you say sit, sit means sit and then down. So it means both of those things to that dog because we always do it in that pattern.
Yeah.
So it's really important to pay attention to all these little things. Once we know how to train something, so this basically little system of lure, fade, lure, add verbal, and then proof it in different environments, we can train lots of different things. So because we have the dogs here, let's demo some of those different things. What do you have for us?
So we're gonna do hand targets real quick.
Okay.
Just real quick, because we think it's the most wonderful thing ever. We teach it and some people are like, why do we need this? Basically, we're teaching the dog to follow our hand, which is a bonus for trick training.
Yes.
Or moving the dog. Everybody moves the dog with the leash. Isn't it a lot more? There we go.
Yeah, it's more efficient and it's nicer, right, to be able to move the dog and have them choose to move rather than us dragging them around.
Right. So in talking about the spin, I'm going to have him, well, let's start with a lure. So I'm going to circle him around and then reward.
Beautiful.
Okay. We'll do that one more time. Circle around. But you see how I'm going slow, but do you see how I'm going the one way? Whenever we talk about different sides of the dog, we should also be training both directions. So then I'm gonna go, the other way with my food lure. My other way with the food lure. So now where that hand target comes into play, so if you remember in past videos, we're just getting that touch. I'm going to have him follow my hand.
Yes, that's how you're fading the lure for.
Yeah. So he's just following and touching.
Good. And when you have a big hand signal like that, the other thing you can do is fade the lure even more. So you're fading the hand signal.
Then what I'm gonna do
is just the little flick like that.
Is the little flick. Yeah.
So once you fade the lure, that doesn't have to be your final hand signal. Now he's just doing it because he's doing it. Yeah.
I know.
He sees that his friend is getting a treat for the spin, so he wants to
I don't
do it
think
as
you
well.
can see B right now because Maui's standing in front of him. Okay, so then do you see, but the tricky thing is, I'm just gonna say about the spin right away, is people go up like this. What's the first thing your dog does?
Because your hands are up there.
As soon as your dogs are around, so you'll notice I started low, or I'm gonna keep my hand down here.
Yeah.
Okay, so reason why I'm down here is just for camera purposes, but let's talk about verbal. So how do we add verbal to a spin?
Depends on which direction. So some people will choose for clockwise versus counterclockwise a different cue. So Maui, when he hears spin, he turns clockwise, correct? I can never keep those straight in my head.
He normally does it on my side, so.
What makes more sense in my brain is the dog turning to their right or their left.
Spin.
Especially if they're beside you. Because then if they're turning to their left and you turn left, it makes more sense. But you can pick anything for verbal cues. So you have spin and twirl.
Yeah, so basically we practice this. I got my wire here. I'm just standing up here for a second. Is when he's beside me, spin. No. Spin. There we go. Twirl.
Good, and same thing, he wasn't sure about the verbal cue. Usually they do have a preference as to which direction they turn. Yeah. He's like, I'll just do everything right now.
Spin.
Good boy.
Twirl. There we go.
Beautiful. And so if he has one side that's stronger than the other, you just follow up with that little hand signal that you've come up with.
Yeah, so B has it on hand signal. He doesn't yet have it on verbal. But it's just, for me, it's nice in teaching verbals, because again, people will say, well, why do we do that? And the thing about verbals is then I can ask him to do something if I'm just standing or sitting there instead of, getting my arm out, or for some dogs, like bending over for the down.
Yeah.
I tell people a lot, it's like a second language.
Yeah.
To dogs.
It's just having a backup cue, right?
Yeah.
You can use either or.
Yeah.
As far as doing things beside you,
right.
When we're doing the sits and downs, we can do that too. So even right now, like Nuggie is sort of off to the side, right? She's laying down, but she's not in front of me, so it's a little bit more challenging.
Sit. It's not the straightest sit.
That's not the straightest sit, but that's
He's all into spins now, guys. So sit. Yes.
nice boy.
Down. There we go.
Good, and that's different than if you were to do it in front of you. So if you were just teaching this for the first time,
right,
you would probably have to go back to luring on the side, hand signal on the side, then verbal on the side.
Down. Yes. Good boy.
There we go. So we're using hand signals, we're using verbals, we're using all kinds of different things to get the dogs to do different tricks.
Right.
As far as tricks for fun, we like the spin, right? The spin is fun. I don't know if he can crawl on these floors. The crawl is another fun one.
Let's try. I never actually thought about that.
It's a little bit slippy, maybe.
So actually, I'm gonna put my back to the camera just to get him on the, yeah, we're just gonna push Amelia out of the way
I will
here.
go over here.
Okay. Okay.
And so Anne-Marie's using a lure in her hand to get Maui to crawl forward. So basically what he needs to know, that's okay. He needs to know how to lay down first, which we know that he does because we've taught that.
He's going on the mat.
Yeah.
He's confused. I'm asking too many things here, so 1 second.
That's
Oh,
okay.
now we're doing shake a paw. Come here. Down.
Good, so we can use that hand signal to get him where we want him, to move him with our hand.
Then I'm just gonna do the hand target.
Good. So we're fading the lure.
Yep.
And we're rewarding once he actually crawls forward. So that's a really hard thing for them to do. And it's something that you teach in little baby steps, but...
Because they want to pop up.
Yes.
Because it's easier to pop up.
Well, with the bow, right? A lot of dogs have trouble with the bow because it's that hind end control.
Here.
So it's almost the same sort of concept.
That's it.
Maui.
Maui's like, no, I want a demo. Just 1 sec, buddy. I don't think.
It's a little harder for the small dogs, I find.
No,
They're already
he's not.
so
I don't
low
know
to
if
the
he's
ground.
relaxed enough to do it, no.
It's okay.
No, he's not gonna stay.
We don't have to push it.
So then we just work on the down and then just, there we go, the shift forward.
Yeah, and just getting that sort of lean toward the lure.
The other thing real quick, why don't we throw in there? I want to throw this in there. We didn't necessarily talk about it, but Maui was just getting me to think about it. Shake a paw. Controversial shake a paw.
I don't like it.
Right, but what I've been doing with my classes is everybody teaches them front 2 feet, shake a paw. Since we're talking about cueing, the thing is most people will train it and then it turns into an obnoxious behavior, right?
Yes, they start hitting you.
Where they just start hitting you or using it to gain attention.
Because everybody rewards shake a paw every time the dog does it because it's cute. They don't reward sit or recall every time the dog does it.
Right.
And then shake a paw becomes the strongest behavior.
But think about what Amelia's saying, other rewards. She's not necessarily saying that the person has a treat. The person's smiling, laughing,
talking,
touching their feet. So what I taught my guys as far as shake a paw is I touch their shoulder instead of just like winging my hand out here, right? So I'll touch the shoulder and get it there. But the kicker I've had a lot of fun with, and I think my classes have too, is
the back foot.
the back foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think which is a lot of fun. By the way, it takes way more training, a little more training to get the back feet because they're used to interacting with the world forward and using.
This is my version that I've done with
Perfect.
Nuggie.
I want to see it.
Sit.
BB.
Is we do like paws up.
Okay.
And then that way, if I offer her my arm, she's coming up here. She's not just hitting me. I think it's, you know.
He's backing up.
It's not really shake a paw, but it's something with her front paws. She's going to step on Nuggie. There. Now she's sort of doing it in a little sit pretty, like she's got her bum on the floor. And then we can go up.
He's stepping on her. Apparently we need a bigger space, guys.
I'm paw targeting on the Nuggie.
Duh.
Yeah.
Okay, you do it now. You do it.
Okay, we're doing it. Okay.
I got him down. He's being quirky. He's just all about working right now.
She's like, I don't want to be stepped on. Okay, so if I want her on the carpet like this, she goes paws up and then we stand. Yeah. And then we do little puppy squats.
So some people would call this maybe sit pretty.
Yeah.
The other thing some people reward is a wave.
Yeah, so they're not actually making contact with you.
But I agree. Think about it though as Amelia's little twist is if their paws are on you, how can they hit you with them?
Yes.
And it's so clear what this is when you put sit.
Okay, so he has it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's very clear that it's going to be rewarded when you put the arm out. It's not that I'm sitting here.
Yeah, just smacking you for fun.
And just smacking you. So everybody's like, the fun thing about tricks, and I say that in quotation marks without sits and downs, is everybody wants the dog to do sits and downs perfect, right? But the tricks, they giggle more and it's their own version. Like ideally, I think everything should be trained.
Everything's a trick to the
Everything
dog,
should
right?
be a trick and fun and reinforcement, you know, for what they're doing. That's why I think, you know, we have a tendency to use more tricks because then it eases the moment.
Yeah.
Where the owners are rather laughing or enjoying it. So I got a real kick out of shaking the paw and I was all excited, not saying necessarily my family was like, oh my gosh, that's cool. Paw. Yeah, buddy. But I put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's sort of funny when he goes up to people and he starts lifting his hind leg. But again, it's getting his brain thinking, right? Because you already see him in here, like he's pushing Nuggie out of the way and he's like, no, I want to do it. This is great. Like he's having the time of his life, right?
He wants to keep training with you, and I think that's sort of an unintended benefit, but is the relationship building that trick training gives you, and that training in general with positive training, it makes the dogs want to work with you, and they're sort of like waiting their turn, and they're focused on you. Like there's a lot going on in here, and the dogs are sort of hanging out with us. Nuggie's trying to get a piece of cheese that I dropped on the floor, but that's okay.
But again, it's about mental stimulation. I really feel like in the last few weeks, you know, people are coming in and exercising, and then the dog's not exhausted. But I try to gently encourage people that they've been training endurance.
Yes, they're training a little athlete.
But they come and they work, you know, with me for 45 minutes, an hour, and we're doing sits, downs, spins, leave it's, that sort of stuff, and the dog goes home exhausted.
Yeah.
Right? Like there should be a combination of the two. And I think what we're trying to do is just show you guys, yes, sits and downs are great. I know a lot of people like stays, but throwing in this other stuff and having a little repertoire, like having a little sequence of different things that they can do to get their attention or redirect them. And if they're interested in hanging out with us, I, you know, compare it to my kids, right?
Yeah, when you're more fun, they want to hang out with you.
There you go.
But I think there's also, like, there's other benefits to these tricks too, like the shake a paw with all different, the 4 paws. I know in a fitness class that I took, a canine fitness class, is getting them to shift their weight is actually good for them, right? Like you're not pushing their weight up, they're lifting that leg. And then they are shifting their weight and learning how to balance and use their stabilizer muscles and doing all kinds of things.
Right.
Like Nuggie does her handstand, her little back up, and we do that, and that helps for agility, like when she's targeting on, the equipment's really big for her. So having that sort of front end strength to be able to hold that target is important for her.
Right, and I just love how Amelia said that, fitness, and it brought my brain right away to agility a little bit, and Amelia's already talking about that, is, again, people just want to, you know, come to agility class, no prior training, but, you know, even with me going to the gym or deciding to go, you know, start running and going in a 5K run, there's training involved. There's
I don't just join a marathon.
Fitness involved. And you have to get them into shape and used to those things as well. So the other thing that Trix is showing is the way they move their body.
Yes.
Right? So the fun thing is, you know, how many dogs can shake a paw with a hind leg? It's hard.
It is.
But when you got it, you got it. But for me, especially with agility, parkour, even trick training, is they need to learn how to move each limb independently and how to shift the hind end and the front end and that sort of thing. So Nuggie was working her legs. So basically, we can do this again. The other option is back up.
Yeah, getting those hind legs moving.
Right.
And then even if you're not doing like sports, like agility and like trick training to be, you know, fancy about it. Even if you just like to go hiking with your dogs, having them have that body awareness where they can use all of their legs individually, they can jump over, a log if it's in the way, they can manage going across some rocks, like they get that body awareness because we've worked on these tricks, and then it benefits them in their day-to-day life when they just go out for a walk or a hike.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people forget to warm them up a little bit, and then they're just like us, and they're more prone to injury.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess basically what we're saying is, tricks are great, but they're not only just tricks to show at home or that sort of thing, they're actually stretches. They're actually teaching your dog body awareness. Self-control is another one, because they're working on it.
Yeah, and I mean, we just started with sit and down and built into all these other things.
That's true,
right?
yeah, we are totally all in there. The other one, actually, let's throw this last one in there. Stand.
Oh, stand, yes. I like the stand. You'd be surprised, it's hard for a lot of dogs to hold a stand for 5 seconds.
They'll just automatically sit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even if they can hold a stand on a flat surface, like having them hold a stand while they're on, the patio furniture, pillow, or something that's a little bit less stable, it makes it a little bit more challenging for them to hold that. So things that are obedience behaviors can also become like tricks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, it's all tricks for the dog.
It is. Yeah. It is basically all tricks, and it can be their own version, and you should enjoy having a good time with it, right? And asking for different positions. Good job, buddy. He's going to lay down.
So why don't we wrap it up a little bit? Basically what we were trying to do with this episode is just show you the process of training a new behavior, from luring to fading the lure to adding a verbal cue to being creative and thinking of new things to train with your dog. It's not all about sit and down and come.
Yeah.
So I think with that, we've given you some ideas. And
some places to start.
Yeah, if you have any questions or things you want to chat about, we're here. We're happy to talk about those. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the fun places, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or you can always send us an email through our website, thedogclassroom.com. So thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.